The Steamship Authority is a proud partner in many Falmouth community events, including town meeting coverage. And for good reason. Not only do we have a terminal and offices here, about 1/3 of our employees call Falmouth their home. We always work hard to serve our neighbors, friends, and the traveling public. We recently put 7 new electric buses into service at our Falmouth parking lots. Soon we'll be adding new vessels to our fleet, continuing work on our energy-efficient Woods Hole terminal buildings, and adding solar panels at our largest parking lot. At the Steamship Authority, we're serving the islands. And you.
Good evening. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is Monday, January 29th at exactly 6:30. And I would ask that you all please silence your cell phones, not the babies. They're allowed to speak. And I would also ask that if you are going to audio or videotape this public meeting, that you notify me as the chair. Thank you. This is an exciting night. I am going to ask you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Police detail, attend. Present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Rest.
Thank you for that. We'll move into proclamations. I do not believe we have a proclamation to assign for tonight, so let's move right into recognitions. And we have a very exciting swearing in of 5 new Falmouth police officers. And at this time, I would like to introduce our Falmouth Police Chief, Jeff Laurie.
Good evening, everybody. You hear me say a lot, it's all about the we, and it is. It's all about the we. But there are certain times in our careers that I think it's important to recognize the I's, the individuals, their achievements, their milestones in their careers, both our civilian and sworn. So we're going to have somewhat of a celebration here tonight. And it brings me back to, believe it or not, 8 months ago. I was sitting with my wife up front here when this board challenged me and gave me my marching orders, and that is to take care of your personnel, take care of our police officers. Mm-hmm. I've done my best as an individual to do that, but I want you to know that these brave men and women that are here today, it's all about them and the amazing work that they do for the community of Falmouth and our region. So I'm really honored and proud to be here tonight to recognize 2 officers. One officer is going to be receiving 2 life-saving medals. He is not with us right now because we're booking multiple people in our holding area right now because work continues, right? The calls need to get answered and things need to get done. So hopefully he'll make it here. So I'm going to ask that Officer Massey and Sergeant Hurt front and center, please. I believe it's important for you to get to meet our talented staff. Sergeant Hurt put Officer Massey in for this life-saving award, and I think you'll be extremely touched as I was. Sergeant?
Hello, board, public. I'm Sergeant Ryan Hurt. For the record, very proud sergeant of the evening shift. And tonight I'm going to be telling you about an incident that occurred on December 26, 2023 at around 7:30. The Falmouth Police Department responded to a local medical facility for a reported disorderly patient. While en route, dispatch informed them that the situation had escalated, reporting that the male was experiencing a PTSD episode, cutting himself and holding a large piece of broken glass to his neck. Officer Sean Flaherty, who's not here, correct? No. Promptly arrived, discovering a chaotic scene with the male bleeding, still holding the glass to his neck. Water covered the floor from an attempted electrocution with a kitchen appliance. Officer Flaherty calmly took immediate control, instructing staff to leave the room and initiating a dialogue with the male. He continued de-escalation efforts for about 4 minutes until Officer Dave Massey arrived. Officer Massey, taking over as the primary contact officer, established rapport with the male due to their shared combat experience overseas, the male in the U.S. Army and Officer Massey in the United States Marine Corps. Despite the male expressing a desire to die and threatening officers, Officer Massey continued the dialogue for almost 20 minutes. When the male expressed concern about criminal charges if he put down the glass, assurances were given that no charges would be pressed and he would be immediately transported for psychiatric care. Requesting a written contract, Officer Massey delivered it, risking his own life by placing in front of the armed suspect. After reading the contract, the male surrendered by throwing down the piece of glass. He was swiftly taken to paramedics waiting outside, received treatment for his injuries, and was transported to the Falmouth ER. Officer Massey stayed by his side until he was settled and comfortable. This incident underscores Officer Flaherty and Officer Massey's professionalism, compassion, and composure, which directly prevented further harm to the male and others. Both officers exhibited restraint during a chaotic and dangerous incident, and their de-escalation efforts resulted in a positive outcome, ensuring the U.S. Army veteran received the necessary help. For these reasons, I nominated Officer Flaherty and Officer Massey for the Life Saving Award.
Officer Flaherty, you can remain up front, please. Sergeant Dunn?
Good evening. On January 2nd, 2024, at approximately 1:58 a.m., Officer Sean Flaherty conducted a self-initiated welfare check of an unhoused woman who was in her parked motor vehicle located at the T-Ticket Walmart parking lot. Officer Flaherty noticed that the woman was unresponsive and appeared to be suffering from a possible overdose. Officer Flaherty requested an ambulance and began life-saving measures to include administering Narcan. Upon arrival, Officer Flaherty assisted the Falmouth Fire Rescue Department in preparing the vehicle's single occupant for transport to Falmouth Hospital for treatment. He made a concentrated effort to determine the cause of the woman's condition, and he spoke with potential witnesses that were in close proximity in an attempt to gather pertinent information. I can say without question that Officer Flaherty's keen observation, quick intervention, and expansive knowledge of local demographics saved the life of a woman in crisis, who likely would not have survived the night without assistance. Thank you, Sean, for demonstrating excellent police work, due diligence, and dedication to our community. Your efforts made a difference, saved a life, and are appreciated.
So that brings us to the next section of our program this evening. As you can see, mental health initiatives are something we face every single day here in Falmouth, and those two calls are a prime example. And what are we doing to be better, right? We're always trying to be better, and I applaud this board for your efforts in ensuring there was funding for 2 clinicians. So I'm going to introduce you to these 2 young ladies tonight. If you could step forward on the board. I'm going to start with Stephanie Doherty. Stephanie Doherty grew up on the Cape and returned to the area after completing her undergraduate degree at the University of Washington, Seattle. Stephanie obtained a master's degree in social work from Boston University and has been engaged in social work for the past 14 years in a variety of positions. Stephanie has worked in a variety of settings, including residential treatment, case management for youth and recovery programming for mothers in early recovery. Prior to joining the Falmouth PD as a behavioral health clinician, Stephanie was the director of a mobile crisis intervention services for the Cape. In her role as a mobile crisis director, Stephanie has engaged with a number of departments doing mental health outreach and is passionate about the future of mental health law enforcement co-response. Molly Marshall. Molly Marshall attended New England College for her undergraduate degree with her primary focus in child development psychology and a minor in social work. She obtained her master's degree from Boston College with a focus in children, youth, and families. Since obtaining her master's degree, Molly has worked within both correctional and recovery settings, teaching parenting, employment, reentry, and recovering skills. Molly was born and raised in Falmouth and is incredibly excited to partner with the Falmouth Police Department and local supportive agencies to give back to the community that helped raise and encourage her and her family over the years. So we decided to take it one step further. And I approached the Law Enforcement Council chiefs on the Cape, and we're creating a law enforcement crisis intervention team where our clinicians will be working with each other across the Cape. So this isn't just a Falmouth problem. This is a regional problem. I believe in regional policing, and these two young ladies are going to help us really get to assist a lot of people. They've been extremely busy in their time with us. I'm very proud of both of them, and they're a welcome, phenomenal addition to Team Falmouth PD.
Excellent.
Again, very excited. I really like to celebrate. As you know, we're very short-staffed here in Falmouth, and we've really actively done a very good job hiring. We've got 2 individuals. One started today, lateral transfer out of Arizona. Another one will be starting later on in February. And then I have officers before you today that we've hired. So there'll be a bunch of us sworn in tonight publicly. This will be my swearing in as well publicly, so I look forward to it. I'm going to start by asking Officer Cooper Chapman to come forward. Officer Chapman was born in Martha's Vineyard. After graduating from Martha's Vineyard Regional High School, he attended Bridgeton Academy for postgraduate year. He then proceeded to St. Leo University in Florida for 2 years before moving back to Massachusetts, where he worked in construction and took classes at Bunker Hill Community College. After the pandemic, Cooper enrolled in the Cape Cod Police Academy, 4th ROC, and graduated July 15, 2022. Cooper went on to work for the town of Falmouth as a community service representative and a seasonal police officer before being offered a full-time position in the summer of 2023. And Madam Chair, if you remember a family from West Virginia talking about an officer who put $20 in a little girl's lemonade jar, he's before you tonight.
I remember it well, and thank you. It made such an impression on that family.
And he will be pinned by Captain Brian Lowen. Officer Anthony Fasaro, if you could please step forward. Officer Fasaro graduated from Falmouth High School in 2018 and is a lifelong resident of Falmouth. Shortly after high school, Officer Fasaro began working at the Oak Bluffs Police Department on Martha's Vineyard as a summer community service officer, just before COVID. He became an emergency medical technician and worked nights and days off at the Oak Bluffs Fire Department. Officer Fasaro attended and graduated from the Plymouth Reserve Police Academy in 2021 as the academic top of his class and worked at the Tisbury Police Department for about 2.5 years, where he developed a law enforcement drone unit before going back to his hometown of Falmouth. He will be pinned tonight by his mother, Francesca. He is my first poached police officer here, hopefully soon to be many, many more. The second poached police officer was Officer David McGraw. If you could step forward, please, sir. Officer McGraw was born and raised on Cape Cod and was inspired at a young age to join the police service. In 2014, he graduated from Franklin Pierce University with a major in criminal justice. He then went on to graduate from the Plymouth Police Academy in 2015. From there, David went on to serve the town of Falmouth in 2016 and Wareham in 2018 as a summer reserve officer. David then joined Cape Cod Community College Police Department in 2018 and achieved the rank of sergeant and interim police chief after serving the college for 5.5 years. He decided it was time to come back to the town where he first became a police officer. David was then hired as a full-time police officer in 2023. David's devotion to serving others is seen through his dedication to fundraising and public service. David thanks his parents, David and Melissa, his 2 sisters, Liz and Allie, and his girlfriend, Rachel, for all their continued support in achieving his dream at becoming a police officer. He looks forward to continued growth in his career by serving the town of Falmouth. I believe you'll be pinned by your father this evening. David. Officer Rohan Kurlu, could you please come forward? Officer Curlew moved here from Jamaica with his family when he was 18, where he attended Falmouth High School for his junior and senior years. He then went on to get his criminal justice degree at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. During that time, he joined the Army National Guard, where he's still currently serving. Working in law enforcement was always the end goal for Rohan. However, what that looked like, he had no idea until he joined the military, where he decided he wanted to go be the guy on the ground, helping his community however way he could. With that being said, he took the civil service exam and lined up perfectly to once again graduate college in May and started the police academy in October of 2022. Everything that he has done is to be where he is today, a proud Falmouth police officer. He's going to be sworn in by his best friend, Tamara. Officer Andrew Roy. Officer Roy graduated from the 18th ROC Randolph Police Academy in October of 2023. He came to Falmouth after growing up in Pembroke and graduating from Pembroke High School. He then attended the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, and graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting. After college, he discovered a love for running and has competed in many races, including the Falmouth Road Race and the Boston Marathon. He will be pinned today by Captain Reed. Last and not least is me. I'm Jeff Laurie. I'm your police chief. It's been an amazing 7 months here. I come to you from the town of Shrewsbury. I've had 35 years plus of policing experience. That journey brought me to Auburn, where I rose through the ranks, and ultimately Uxbridge and Westboro as the first police chiefs from outside. All amazing communities, but the best is for last, and that's Falmouth. So I'm proud to be the temporary caretaker of this department, and I will be pinned tonight by my wife, Carol, for the very last time. So everyone that's pinning our officers, if you could please come forward, please.
Michael Palmer, Falmouth Town Clerk. If you want to all raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform all duties incumbent upon me as a member of the Falmouth Police Department. According to the best of my ability and understanding, I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Charter and bylaws of the town of Falmouth. So help me God. Congratulations.
So this will include this ceremony today from the police department. You can fall in line, officers. I want to thank the board. I want to thank the town manager and his staff for allowing us to do this. I think it's very important to celebrate our accomplishments and milestones. I can tell you, I don't like it here. I love it here. I want all of our officers to feel how I feel every day coming to work. And again, on behalf of the entire department, we thank you for the opportunity to serve this amazing community.
Thank you, Chief.
And Chief Laurie, I certainly would like to pass it back to you in terms of thanks for taking care of our officers. And I would encourage you to continue to support them through your hiring process, your professional development, and pursuing a police station that meets their needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like I said, pleased to report, we've got 9 going to the academy in 2 weeks. So we're on our way.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I picked a good meeting to come back.
Yes, an exciting one.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll give them a minute to leave.
Yeah.
Of it, the amount of people and.
To a man, the guys that I'm involved with, literally the level that we were, not the new guys. They love the program. So. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
That's a sharp looking uniform.
Wicked. Do you know in Falmouth, Wicked Shop in Massachusetts, there used to be flying state police. You
Yeah,
had to be
I've read that before, yeah.
And all of them on this. Looked exactly the same for a while.
Okay, the board is going to continue its business, and we will move into announcements. Does the board have any announcements this evening?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms.
I'd
Scott
like-
Price?
I'd like to announce that the Woods Hole Black History Month Committee has a number of events starting this week for Black History Month. More information can be found at the Diversity Advisory Committee's website, which is woodsholediversity.org.
Thank you for that. Any other announcements?
None for me.
Okay, we will move into public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself, and since the matter has not been included on the agenda, the Select Board will not participate in any discussion or debate of your topic. Is anyone here for public comment? Yes.
Hello, I'm Molly Moynihan. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Marine Biological Laboratory. I'm also chair of MBL's Housing Action Committee. My colleagues and I have been coming here for several months, and we will continue to do so, to remind the Select Board and the town that the housing crisis is an urgent situation that needs to be a top priority. Young working people like myself and people with young families are struggling to stay here. We are often forced to put together piecemeal solutions for our housing needs, which can even include living in a car, boat, or tent. The never-ending search for stable, affordable housing all too often drives talented and essential members of the community workforce away, including nurses, teachers, scientists, even members of law enforcement. Summer is rapidly approaching, and as such, many members of the community in seasonal rentals will be desperately searching for housing. We urge the town and the Select Board to rapidly implement creative solutions, such as those that are being proposed in the Housing Production Plan or other affordable housing projects that are designed to meet the unique needs of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here for public comment? Okay, seeing none. Oh, do we have one? I'm sorry. You got to jump up a little, Dave. No, you didn't. Not high enough. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Dave Buzanowski, President of the Falmouth Heights Mayor Vista Neighborhood Association. 2 things on my mind tonight, both relative to my favorite subject of South Coast wind. Number one, they're still in a holding pattern as far as extending with the EFSB. And their lawyer routinely submits a 45-day update of their situation. And their update is progressing rapidly, to be perfectly honest with you. By the same token, the lawyer often, every time he submits the 45-day report, he refers to still being engaged with the town of Falmouth. And to my knowledge, I'm unaware of any engagement. I received an e-Christmas card from them, and I received a notification of their philanthropy of offering nonprofits a grant. But other than that, I don't think I've been engaged in any way. I'm unaware of the town being engaged, and I've asked the town whether there is anything that I should know about. Second issue on my mind, on Saturday, I attended a wind summit in Barnstable, in Hyannis. And this was arranged by the Save Douses Beach people. They're facing the same situation that we are, where Commonwealth Wind wants to bring their cables in through their pristine estuarial beach at Douses. And also the Craigville Beach people were also there. Craigville Beach is going to entertain the Park City cables. The summit was, I spoke specifically about our Falmouth situation, nothing that is new to you in any way, our objection to the cables, and the substation being over a sole source aquifer in our town. But more enlightening and informative was the offshore portion of the presentation, presented by New England fishermen and also a doctor from Rhode Island, Mrs. Quadracki Knight, and she's written a number of...
You've come to your 2 minutes, Mr. Buzanowski.
Thank you very much. I would just like to acknowledge Mr. Matt Mascali and Mr. Brown, who were there, and I want to thank them very much for being there.
Thank you.
And if I might just say one last thing, this is a presentation that's going to be on video. It's been on Zoom, and I would like to see it, if I have any hands in it, I'd like to have it presented to the town of Falmouth, or offered to the town, to the public to see. It's very enlightening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Raise your hand really high. None. Okay. We're going to move on. We were originally scheduled to have a joint meeting with the Falmouth Housing Authority Board, and we are not able to do that because candidates are not available to be interviewed. So we will move into our public hearings, and our first public hearing is to discuss and vote proposed fee changes for 2024. And I would ask Mr. Zielinski to read the hearing notice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As provided under Chapter 119 of the Code of Falmouth, a public hearing will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, January 29th, 2024, at 6:45 p.m. to establish and promulgate fees which are effective as of January 9th, 2024, to be charged by the town departments and agencies, except as provided by MGL School Department, Planning Board, Library, Town Clerk, Town Treasurer, and Collector of Taxes. The proposed changes in fees are listed below. Nancy Taylor, Chair, Select Board.
Thank you, Mr. Zielinski, and I will push it over to Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you and good evening, Madam Chair, Select Board. In your packets is a copy of the actual advertisement for this public hearing in regards to the ambulance rate increases. It's dated January 19th. As I mentioned at our last meeting back on December 18th, at the end of each calendar year, town departments are directed to review their existing fee structures, analyze whether the fees are adequate or if they need to be adjusted. Quite frankly, this was not, we didn't properly advertise this particular rate increase, so we had to go back and do that again. So that's why this item is on the agenda tonight for the public hearing with regards to the ambulance fee changes. Madam Chair and Select Board, included in your packet is a copy of that public hearing notice, which, as you can see, lists the present and proposed ambulance rate fees. We believe that these fees, with the proposed fees, the increase places us kind of on par with the other Cape communities in terms of ambulance fees. And importantly, I also wanted to mention, and also included in your packet is a letter from Chief Smith, the Fire Rescue Department Chief, talking about the fire override for the 14 positions. And as you all recall, that override amount was $950,000. The true actual costs were about $1.5 million. So the delta, the difference, we're trying to make up in additional revenues that we're raising. We're projecting, and I think accurately, that this rate increase with the ambulance fees is going to generate another $225,000 each year to help offset that delta. And with that,
We have not raised our ambulance fees in how many years?
I think it's been about 5 years.
Okay, that was my first question. My second question is, and I think you may have addressed this, that this puts us right up on the level of other towns on the Cape with their fees.
That's my
For
understanding.
ambulance
Yes, that's
fees.
correct.
Thank you.
And,
Questions from the board? I'll go with Mr. Muscally and then Ms. Scott Price.
Currently, what kind of revenue do we get on an annual basis from ambulance fees?
So I think that's in, one sec. We didn't put that in.
I would have to get back to Madam Chair and Select Board Member Muscally. We'll get back to you on that. We don't have that
And
figure.
also, and not necessarily for tonight, but I would be interested in the waiver policy that Chief Smith indicated in his letter as to exactly who's making those decisions, what goes
Okay.
into those decisions. We all know about, ghost charges for people that don't expect to get charges, and what a big problem that is. So, again, not for tonight necessarily, but
Okay.
would
Well,
like to
thank you for
hear
bringing that up.
in the future.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
bring that back to the board. Ed, did you have that number on the current revenues?
I don't have the exact number, 2.7, 2.8 million. And this would add to that, again, to help out with the override.
But
And
those
in
are for
terms-
Medicare and insurers,
those are-
that amount.
Yeah, the entire amount for Medicaid.
So I guess my real question was, how much other than the Medicare, I mean, the private payers that we're talking about, that this is gonna really
Yeah,
affect?
I don't have that number offhand.
Okay.
We can get that for you. And the chief currently decides who is entitled to fee waivers. So if this impacts somebody and they aren't able to pay these fees, they don't have insurance for some reason, even though, we're supposed to be close to 100% in insurance, there is an ability to waive the fee. So this is charging insurance companies where other communities are getting this type of compensation, and the town of Falmouth is not. So we're giving a bonus or a benefit to the insurance companies. And then in addition, we get an amount of additional Medicare between what it costs for us to operate the fire department and what we get paid from Medicare. So that amount of money can increase as well as a part of this, so that we can pay for the full amount of the override.
And in the past, we have had, I wouldn't say a lot of fees waived, ambulance fees, but I do believe that Chief Smith is very approachable and willing to look at that. Ms. Scott Price, did you have a question?
It was about the waiver, so it's already been discussed. Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Zelinski?
None for me.
Yes, none from you. Okay, any other questions from the board? Questions from the public regarding the fee rates? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
I would move approval. Is there an official?
I believe a motion to approve and adopt the 2024 revised fire and rescue department ambulance rates as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we are held open a hearing for the application of an alteration of premises of its wine and malt beverage restaurant license, Seafood Sam's Falmouth, Inc., DBA Seafood Sam's, located at 365 Palmer Ave, Falmouth, continued from January 8, 2024. Mr. Renshaw?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and board members, in your packets tonight is a letter from the attorney representing the applicant, Seafood Sam's. Back on January 23rd, last week, the attorney representing the applicant withdrew without prejudice the application for the alteration of premises of its wine and malt beverage restaurant license. And Madam Chair, because of that withdrawal, I understand the process, he'll have to reapply for perhaps an amendment to the common victualler license that they currently hold. But for tonight's purposes, I'd recommend that the board accept the withdrawal without prejudice and close the hearing.
Would anyone like to move that?
I would move that we accept the withdrawal of the application without prejudice.
I'll second Mr. Brown's motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I will also entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. And we will wait for the reapplication.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we will move into business. A firm appointment of the Communications Director, Mr. Renshaw.
It has been an exciting night. And Madam Chair and Select Board, first I want to thank Mr. Thomas's family for being here tonight and for your patience as we work through the front end of the agenda. Madam Chair and Select Board, we're really pleased to bring forward for your confirmation Mr. James Thomas, who's a very highly qualified candidate for the Emergency Communications Director position. Mr. Thomas is a public safety communications professional with 10 years of progressive leadership experience. He was most recently sworn in as a deputy sheriff and is currently the training and education coordinator for the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office of Emergency Communications. Mr. Thomas holds, and this is impressive, holds a master's in public administration with a concentration in emergency management, as well as a master's in criminal justice. Madam Chair and Select Board, he is an APCO certified public safety executive, APCO registered public safety leader, an emergency number professional through the 911 Association, or NENA, and a NENA certified center manager. A lot of fancy acronyms. Basically what it amounts to is Mr. Thomas is extremely well qualified and a lot of experience that's going to benefit our communications center. Mr. Thomas specializes in emergency communications training, education, and quality assurance and improvement with a focus on empowering his staff through professional development. And of all the things that impressed the panel the most when we interviewed Mr. Thomas, it was just that, his passion for professional development and working with staff to encourage them to do better and become better communications officers. Madam Chair and Select Board, Mr. Thomas currently lives in East Sandwich, so after we answer any questions that you may have, I would also ask as part of the motion to affirm his appointment that we waive the residency requirement. So with that, James, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to kind of introduce yourself to the community?
We do want to put you on the spot, actually. And I also see that the department head's salary, it's already budgeted?
Yes.
And he's coming in at a rate that you're comfortable with?
He is coming in at a rate that we're comfortable with. Yes,
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Select Board. Good evening. I'll just briefly say that I presently serve on the command staff of the Sheriff's Office Emergency Communications Center, which you may know is your primary public safety answering point. So in some ways, this is an opportunity to continue in a relationship that I've been on the outside of for a bit. But I will share with you what I shared with the panel when we had our, again, I completely agree with Mike, very exciting conversation that morning that went on for a couple of hours before somebody said, we should probably stop. And what I shared with them at the end is I really didn't know how many exciting steps you had recently taken and all the work that you had in progress. It just sort of hadn't reached my ears yet. And I'm very excited about the initiatives that are underway, and I look forward to coming up to speed and getting a situation that I understand has been tough for a bit now, stabilized and beyond stabilized, really setting a standard regionally, as Chief Laurie was saying. So thank you.
Welcome. Any questions from the board?
No, thanks for coming.
Yeah, you sound awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Very personable. I like that.
Thank you, James. Madam Chair and Select Board, again, as Chief Laurie mentioned earlier, you know, the culture is so important in any organization, and we've been challenged over the years, but I'm confident that Mr. Thomas is going to turn that around, and Falmouth Communication Center is going to be known as a destination place, and we're going to close that gap with the personnel shortages and whatnot. So I'm really excited to make my recommendation, Madam Chair and Select Board, that the board affirm the appointment of Mr. James Thomas to be appointed as the Emergency Communications Director, and the Select Board waive the residency requirement.
Okay, so there are two parts to that motion. Would anyone like to move it?
Madam Chair, I'll mimic the motion made by the town manager on both points.
Okay, the appointment and the waiver. So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board?
Giddy up.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you,
Mr. Thomas.
and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
If I could just say thanks to Susan Lumping for working so hard to fill these critical positions. That I understand you've been putting in a lot of hours, and I really appreciate it personally.
I think that's a great point, Mr. Brown, and certainly well-deserved. We hear about you on the phone coming into work, on the phone when you're leaving work. We know all about it. So thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on to update housing production plan, and I see our town planner, Jed Kornak, and our housing coordinator, Kim Fish. The floor is yours.
Kim's going to start the presentation and then hand it off to me.
Okay, and I have slated you for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. How are y'all? Welcome back. For the record, I'm Kim Fish, the housing coordinator. I'm here with the town planner, Jed Kornak, and we are here to give you an update on the housing production plan. We've been working with our consultants, Jeff Davis with Horsley Witten Group and Alexis Lanzalotta at Barrett Planning Group. And we're going to give just, I'll give a basic introduction of what the housing production plan is and go over the public meetings that we held. Then Jed's going to take it and discuss the draft strategies and affordable housing map exercise and then what our next steps are. So what is a housing production plan? The purpose is to facilitate development and preservation of homes that meet the requirements of the state's affordable housing law, commonly known as Chapter 40B. Statewide goal is at least 10% of year-round housing units in every municipality will be deed restricted as affordable to low or moderate income households. As of October 31st, 2023, 8.11% of Falmouth's year-round housing stock meets this requirement and is included in the Massachusetts Subsidized Housing Inventory, otherwise known as SHI. And I just want to note here, the housing production plan, its goal is to get us to that 10%, but as we know in our community, 10% is really 80% and below, but our community also needs 81% and up to about 100, 120, 140%. So we're going to actually incorporate that in this housing production plan as well, not just the 80 and below that qualify for the SHI. The HPPs must receive local adoption by the Planning Board and Select Board before submission to the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities for approval. There's three main components to the housing production plan: housing needs assessment, housing goals, and the implementation strategies to meet housing goals, which is what we're going to discuss tonight. Our first community meeting was November 8th, 2023, and over 50 people were in attendance. The consultants did a very comprehensive presentation and identified the housing needs and all the data, lots of data review. And then we discussed barriers to housing development and then broke off in groups and discussed about future housing opportunities and potential sites. Our second community meeting was held January 10th, 2024, and over 50 people again showed up, which we just really appreciate. The presentation was a summary of the input of the first public meeting, and then we had voting exercises on the draft strategies and sticker exercises for future affordable housing sites. And I just want to reiterate, over 50 people attended both. And I've said it at both meetings, but I just want to reiterate, we're so grateful. We're in a housing crisis. We all know it. And we can't do this alone. And the community coming out and supporting this and being part of this is really what's going to make a difference as well. And they did. They showed up, and it was a very healthy, wonderful conversations. So I just want to publicly thank everyone again for coming out. Now I'm going to pass it off to Jed, and he's going to discuss, these are the boards that we had at the second meeting with all the strategies. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. For the record, Jed Kornak, Town Planner. As Kim mentioned, we had our second public meeting, which was on January 10th. We had 4 stations, 4 strategies. One of them you'll see up on the board. We basically put them into categories so that we could accommodate everyone at the event. And what you see up on the slide here is the results of the voting exercise. So a participant would walk around to each one of the boards, and then indicate if they agreed or disagreed with the draft strategy, as you can see up on the slide. They also could indicate if they needed more information, or if they agreed and it was a high priority, they could just put a dot along that row as well. Additionally, at the very end, it's hard to see, but they could also add in notes. So if they had particular questions or particular comments that they wanted to add, they could do that as well. So I'm going to go through the 4 categories. I'm just going to hit a couple of them per slide just because we're limited in time, and then we'll just wrap up with some next steps. So as you can see up on this slide, 2 of the items that we focused on was, and I'll just read it for the folks at home, conduct ongoing community outreach and education regarding affordable housing needs locally and regionally. So it was one of the top priorities that folks indicated at the event. And then the second one was formalize a program to monitor existing deed-restricted housing units and enforce current conditions. So both of those things Kim is actually already working on, but I wanted to just touch upon that second one, formalizing a program to monitor existing deed-restricted housing units. So Kim touched upon the 80% AMI, which is on the SHI. Now, we would traditionally, and we do, monitor those SHI units, but there's also units that were produced above that 80% that Kim is working really hard on. And formalizing that program and making sure that they follow the conditions that were created during their approval is really important. So that's one of the elements that the public told us that was important. The second category was finance and subsidy. Again, just 2 items here. Encourage unique development approaches that utilize Falmouth's Affordable Housing Fund, and then provide support for the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund by exploring additional resources and strategies to capitalize the use of the fund. So the first one, one of the examples that we articulated for the folks who attended was the recent newspaper article where the 300 Committee is purchasing land up in North Falmouth. They're dividing a portion of it for affordable housing, so there's that unique opportunity to combine forces, preserve open space, but also create affordable housing. That might be an avenue for the fund to encourage moving forward. And then the second item, which is an item on the a later agenda item related to the real estate transfer fee. So another option to add funds to the fund, which then would in turn create affordable housing down the road. Third category was regulatory. That's all about zoning changes that could be made. The first, I'm not going to read the entire thought there, but the basic premise was to allow for diversity in the housing stock in your single-family, traditional single-family zoned areas. So again, considering the idea of 2-family structures being allowed either by right or by special permit within these single residence districts. And then the second item is establishing mechanisms to monitor or regulate short-term rentals. A very important topic, as you all are aware, and a lot of folks indicated that it was a high priority for them. In fact, there was a lot of conversation about short-term rentals, which I'm sure this body will take up in the coming months. Then lastly, affordable housing was the last group. So again, I'll just make note of 2 items here. Make suitable public property available for affordable housing. So the planning department under my, actually the work I'm doing is sifting through all of our publicly owned lands to determine whether or not there's buildability, if you will, options for either affordable housing or other types of development. But folks had indicated that they highly agree with that, making use of town-owned property. And then the second item was encouraging development that includes a number of units for special needs populations such as the formerly homeless, households, or persons with disabilities. Again, one of the items that we heard loud and clear at that event was not just the 80% AMI, not just the 100% AMI folks, but folks who really need it, the homeless population. It's really important. So then the last station, if you will, was this map exercise. So what we asked folks to do was basically to tell us where they'd like to see affordable housing development in town and the type. So you can't probably see it up on the screen, but those stickers are different colors. So the darker orange or the red are where you see either mixed use or higher density. And so I'll just use the cursor. It's located primarily in the downtown area. And so this purplish pinkish area is the mixed residential and commercial overlay district. So as you can see, a lot of folks indicated that having that higher density housing down in that area was important. Some of the observations, as you can see up on the screen, where it's evenly distributed throughout town, the whole idea of future housing and where it could be located. The variety in the type of housing was also widely distributed. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, the mixed use was really concentrated in that downtown area. What you do see up on the map are these sort of light green areas. These are just open space parcels that are currently owned by the town itself. So, timeline for completion. So we've, as Kim mentioned, we've been working with our consultants for quite a while now, and it's a three-step process. As Kim mentioned before, the planning board needs to approve the housing production plan. It then moves to the select board, and this body will then ultimately approve it. Fingers crossed. It will make its way to the state. The state will review it and then indicate whether or not it meets all the requirements. We'll have an official housing production plan. We divided that sort of approval process into three main steps, as you can see. The first is the draft strategies, which is tonight's meeting. I presented the information, the same information, to the planning board last week. Then we will come forward with the draft housing production plan in February, and then we'll look to have you folks approve and vote on the final housing production plan in March. So our goal currently is to publicize the draft housing production plan within a week or so that the entire public can see what the plan looks like and then provide input. And we're hoping that everyone, especially currently, has visited the housing page on the town's website. So I'm just going to go there very quickly. And that's where all of the information from the first two meetings, as well as the videos from those two meetings, are located. That's where we'll publish the draft housing production plan, and we'll ask that folks who have comments that they want to provide simply email it to the main housing email, which is located here, which is housing@falmouthma.gov.
That is a great idea.
So with that,
so I have a question. And you don't have to answer this right now, but I'd like it really to be thought about. We, as you know, the select board has housing as one of its very top priorities. And we have a couple of projects out there that seem exciting and that seem to have support in town. And I just want you to think about where in the process that we're getting stuck. Because my sense and what I continue to hear is we get these projects, then we get stuck and nothing happens. And I'm only speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the board, but we need to figure that out so that we can move projects forward. Because we can't keep having a top priority and then not moving the projects forward.
Understood.
So I would ask you to think about that.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Mr. Muscali.
I just want to commend you for looking at the 81 and up. I think that is a huge need that we need to be able to address as well. So I think that's great that you're including that in the plan. Thank you.
And we'll have to fund that on our own, because we won't get help from the Office of Housing or whatever they call it. It's going to be a big challenge.
Any other comments?
I just think that the meetings being on the website is just an
awesome.
easy go-to where they get all their information in one spot, so I commend you for that as well.
It's very informative. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Question, when is our current housing production plan, is there an expiration date on it?
do you remember it?
It was the beginning of January.
Yeah, January
So
10th.
kind of-
We passed it.
So is it still functional? Is it still applicable?
You can still use it and rely on it, but not for certain regulatory processes, i.e. if you were going to be, using it to claim safe harbor or anything like that, it's essentially expired.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the
I
board?
just want to comment, I was able to attend the first community forum, and it was really well done, so I'm sure the second one was as well. So great job gathering a lot of good public input, and I really look forward to seeing what comes together.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else? Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we will move on to the report from the Human Services Committee.
Hi. My name is Karen Delaney. I am the co-chair of the Human Services Committee, and I just want to say thank you for inviting us to talk tonight. I know you had a lot on your agenda, so I just am going to do a brief update for you. I don't have slides. But one of the things, we are a 7-member committee. We currently have 6. We have 1 opening. And the goals of our committee are to advocate for and support the role of the Human Services Department, to identify and prioritize unmet and emerging human services needs, to advise the Board of Selectmen and the community at large about the ongoing human service needs in our community, and to stimulate the development of new programs, services, and initiatives to address those human service-related needs in Falmouth, and to recommend human services funding to the Board of Selectmen and other town meeting members. A key role of our committee and a key goal of all committee members is to serve as a partner to the Human Services Department in all matters. We want them to rely on us to support and promote their work and to share their information and everything that they're doing in the community and with all of you. All of us on the committee are currently either serving in a human services related field or have served in the past and are currently retired. Last year, we did a strategic planning session with our committee to really, what can we do to move the humans? We're an advisory committee only, and what can we do to best advocate for this department? So I just wanted to highlight a few of the key goals that we have for the committee and things we've moved forward. A key item is to better promote the committee meetings and the community events and resources that the department has. For example, we promoted the suicide prevention workshop recently, the Aging with Pride event that was co-jointly held with the senior center. Also to invite community partners and others that work for the town and other agencies to meet with and seek input on initiatives and resources. For example, we recently invited the Immigration Resource Center to one of our meetings. They presented about all the services they have. They're based out of Hyannis. They now are once a month at the Human Services Department providing services to Falmouth, and also the Falmouth Service Center. They provide services there. That all came out of that meeting of how can we get their services to residents of Falmouth without them having an office here. Another example, Coalition for Children. They share resources with families. We're then spreading that information out. We also want to promote our committee members serving as liaisons to other committees. We currently have someone on the Affirmative Action Diversity Committee, as well as the Substance Use Commission. We're trying to create those co-partnerships. We are participating in the focus groups. I just took a note of, make sure we have someone at the next housing initiative meeting. But we have been participating in the opioid settlement funds focus groups. In addition, we invite the public to come to our committee meetings because there's a lot of community partners that present to us on a monthly basis and share the resources that are available for Falmouth residents that people aren't aware of. For instance, we've had Housing Assistance Corporation, Coalition for Children, Samaritans. Every month we try to have another community partner present at our meetings, and we open those up to the public. We review funding proposals for the department and help them work on the needs of the department. And we promote scholarship opportunities. We review the applicants for the Peter Kerwin Scholarship for those going into human service-related fields. I just want to say, I can't say enough about the Human Services Department. I think you all know what a gem that is for this town. The service they provide to the residents here, the partnerships they involve in. I am the executive director at the Falmouth Service Center, and I wear that hat. They are an amazing community partner. This department is outstanding in what they do in meeting the needs and the challenges of residents of this department, and I have to say I'm very proud to serve as the co-chair of this committee to further promote their work.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Do we fund human services at a level that's sustainable with our budget?
There are several key needs. I think the answer in short is the needs are growing, and yes, we could always use more funding to meet the unmet needs in the town because it's a high priority. Yes.
Ms. Scott Price?
Could you just let the public know when your meetings are, so that if people are interested, they could attend?
Yes, they're the first Tuesday of every month from 4:30 to 6 p.m.
And you meet?
We meet by Zoom currently.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Muscali?
So it's very easy to attend.
Is there any coordination with the veterans organizations? I know they're, have the same needs as many of the other organizations.
And we partner with a
that
lot
you're
of the town departments. We have invited the Veterans Group before. We've invited representatives from the Senior Center. So we try to promote, the other groups as well, particularly where there are needs, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have one more.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
What do you think about putting the second floor of the poorhouse back on, kind of almost like it was before, with the little tiny rooms for people that are experiencing homelessness for a temporary period?
I don't think I could speak to that. I can say I just visited their offices, and the offices are beautiful, and it's a wonderful office, but I couldn't speak to that.
I'm just saying, as a concept, I just feel like we don't really have a place for people that are without homes to go in Falmouth.
But I do agree with Ms. Delaney that that wouldn't be her call, but I also made an impromptu visit over to see Susie and her group, and it is a much nicer place for Human Services to be housed.
Yeah.
Much nicer. Anything else from the board? Nope. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Discuss and vote to establish a freshwater ponds advisory committee. And I'm going to pass that over to Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you,
please.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been practicing that as well, because it is kind of rolls
I
off the
can't say
tongue.
that. And I've got Mr. Comart flashing his light in my face, so you've totally thrown me off.
Madam
Go
Chair
ahead.
and Select Board, I want to give you a kind of a brief overview summary, and then I'm going to allow some time for Mr. Comart, who's with us, obviously, to speak as well. As you all know, we're fortunate to live in a town with more freshwater ponds than any other community on the Cape. They contribute to our quality of life, our property values, tourism, and overall economic engine. Importantly, over the past few years, we've witnessed increased evidence that our freshwater ponds are degrading. As a result, the creation of a volunteer freshwater ponds advisory committee that would have as its mission advising the Select Board on the protection and preservation of Falmouth's freshwater ponds, formulating recommendations for integration into the Select Board's FY23, FY27 strategic plan would be, we feel, a very positive step towards the protection and preservation of the town's freshwater ponds. Madam Chair and Select Board, there are currently no other Select Board established advisory committees that focus their efforts exclusively on the protection and preservation of our freshwater ponds. So this would not be a duplication of effort in any way. Sections C3-6 and C7-1 of the Town Charter specifically grant the Select Board the exclusive power to appoint other governmental bodies, such as advisory committees. Madam Chair, if Select Board opts to vote to create the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee this evening, the Town Manager recommends that the committee membership be set at 5 members, although that's open for discussion. The committee appointment policy, which is attached to your packets this evening, originally adopted by the Board on September 29th of 1993 and amended on May 18th of 2011, outlines the process for advertising vacancies for the consideration of candidates, as well as the qualifications for applicants to be considered for appointment to the committees. Should the Select Board choose to create the committee, the Town Manager is recommending the committee be asked to draft a mission statement in consultation with my office as its first order of business. And Madam Chair and Select Board members, I know you probably have questions, but at this stage I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kim Comart, who's forgotten more about freshwater pond protection and preservation than I'll ever know.
We know. Go ahead, Kim.
Good evening. So I'm going to read a statement, and the Falmouth Pond Coalition strongly supports the Town Manager's recommendation that the Select Board establish a Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee. Our 75-plus freshwater ponds contribute to our quality of life in Falmouth, offering benefits that include, in no particular order, recreational opportunities, wildlife habitat, aesthetic beauty, strong property values, water quality, community gathering spaces, educational and learning opportunities, and flood control. The idea of establishing a freshwater ponds advisory committee has been under discussion among members of our coalition for at least a year, and has been prompted by our concern that our ponds are not receiving sufficient attention within Falmouth town government. I want to acknowledge Select Board Member Doug Brown, who's been particularly encouraging of this idea, which we very much appreciate. And we know that other organizations and organizations like the Falmouth Water Stewards have also expressed support. Some of our freshwater ponds, as the town manager was referencing, like Cedar Lake, Shallow Pond, Mill Pond, for example, are badly degraded ponds. Ashumet Pond, which borders Mashpee and Falmouth, was closed for almost 3 months this summer due to a massive cyanobacteria bloom, which was caused by nitrogen overload from septic systems and fertilizers. Many more freshwater ponds are at risk of becoming badly degraded if we don't act. They're losing their aesthetic appeal, becoming unsafe and unusable for swimming, boating, and fishing and other forms of recreation. We're seeing and hearing about increased evidence that the properties on many of these ponds are losing their value, with a growing number of house sales on degraded freshwater ponds falling through as potential buyers learn about the degraded condition of the pond. We've seen houses selling for less than they should have. We've seen houses staying on the market for longer than they should have because of pond degradation. We're witnessing the same trends in the rental market. The town has been devoting significant attention and enormous financial and personnel resources to addressing the pollution of our bays, estuaries, and saltwater ponds, primarily from nitrogen loading into our waters from septic systems and fertilizers. Addressing the pollution of our marine environment is critically important, and we totally applaud those efforts. Freshwater ponds need protection as well. Our hope is that this advisory committee will provide leadership on this issue and develop realistic, achievable plans for freshwater pond preservation and protection to recommend to the town manager and to all of you. Plans for how to engage town government departments, the Department of Public Works, the Conservation Department, the Health Department, the Building Department in this work. We envision strong public-private partnerships, town departments collaborating with neighborhood groups, pond groups, organizations like the Falmouth Pond Coalition, the Committee to Protect Wacoyet Bay, the Salt Pond Bird Sanctuary, the Falmouth Water Stewards, the Buzzards Bay Coalition, local village associations, and more. These partnerships to protect our freshwater ponds. The establishment of this committee will represent a major step forward in freshwater pond protection and preservation. It will help integrate freshwater pond protection into the town's strategic planning, as the town manager has just said, and help foster a sense of responsibility and accountability for town departments to play a role in this important work. We hope you will vote yes on this proposal, and we look forward to working with the town to ensure that this committee is effective in protecting these precious assets. So thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Any questions about the importance of this new committee?
Not at all.
Would anyone like to move it?
I would love
Can
to
I just,
move it.
can I just mention, I know that Steve Rafferty is here. You had mentioned that maybe Steve should speak briefly. He's here.
If he would like to, he's more than welcome to.
I know he wanted to speak.
Come on up, Mr. Rafferty. However, I think the board is fully behind it, but we certainly, as the chair of the Water
You're
Quality
not worried
Management.
about him messing up your chances again?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Are you? You had it in the bag. All right, let's see how it goes.
I will be brief. I'm Steve Rafferty. I'm a former water superintendent. I'm chair of the Water Quality Management Committee. As the town's water superintendent, oftentimes people would get in touch with my department because they were near ponds, they had concerns and questions, and there was no place to send them to with their concerns to be followed up on. We have been engaged with Kim ever since he brought this forth. We've been very clear that we're engaged with the estuaries, but we also recognize the strong need to take care of the ponds. We work closely with the Board of Health. We expect we'll work closely with Kim's group as it forms on all of our common interests to make this town a great town to live in going forward.
Thank you.
See, and you were worried.
Madam Chair, I motion to establish a freshwater ponds committee comprised of 5 members as presented and to properly advertise for applications.
Second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, folks, we're going to move on. Approve non-union wage adjustments. I'm going to push that over to Mr. Renshaw, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to push it over to Assistant Town Manager Peter Johnson.
Okay.
And I will push it no more. So we are seeking Select Board approval to adjust the pay rates for 2 categories of non-union positions. And first, I want to just describe those 2 categories a little bit. The first category is for seasonal positions. You have in your packet a list of what all those positions are, as well as the pay rates that we are proposing. So I'll take that one first, and then we'll come back for the second category of non-aligned positions. So the seasonal positions are just as it sounds. These are not year-round benefited positions. These are positions that work only seasonally. Many of them are in the beach department. However, there are some also in public works, marine environmental services, and a couple of other departments that are represented. The board may recall that you recently approved a 15% increase, and we've been doing these for a calendar year cycle because it fits better with the season that we hire them for, because it crosses from the spring over into the summer. So that was adopted for calendar 2023, and we are seeking your approval for a 3% increase for calendar 2024. Any questions on the seasonal wage rates before I move on to non-aligned?
No.
Just to clarify, the
Yes.
15% increase was to get us more in line with other Cape communities, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We've, as you know, we've had difficulty filling seasonal positions for many years. We made, I don't recall the exact percentage, but it was a larger increase for calendar year 2022, and then a 15% increase 2023. And I should emphasize, we did much better with hiring.
I was just going to say, our lifeguards and our seasonal people in terms of the beaches.
Right, so we,
almost at capacity.
We thought we had a significant increase for 2022, but it was much larger for 2023, and it really seemed to pay off.
Great, thank you.
So thank you for that. The next category of employees is we refer to as non-aligned, and I apologize for that name. I don't know where it comes from, but we haven't come up with a better one yet. That represents part-time positions that are not benefited. So they may work 52 weeks at a very low number of hours per week, but certainly they are all under 20 hours per week, and it's a fairly limited number of positions, and again, you have a table that lists all of them. This is a group that, unlike seasonal, has not had a substantial increase in quite a long time. And these not aligned are on a fiscal year cycle. We're seeking the board's approval for a 10% increase for fiscal year 2024. That's the current year that we're in now. And then a 4.5% increase for fiscal 2025. The increase for this year can be paid for from our wage settlement article, special appropriation, and the town manager's proposed budget for next year, fiscal year 2025, does include the combined rate increases that we are seeking. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions, and if not, we have a draft recommendation that outlines the motion for you.
Madam Chair, just.
Yes, Mr. Scally?
Any indication on hiring for seasonals, whether we'll be as successful as we were last year? Is there any way of knowing at this point?
Too soon to tell at this point.
However, thank you. The sooner, Peter reminds me, the sooner we get this process approved and underway, the sooner we can start starting that recruitment process. So it's important that we get this.
Just going to say that. And it's more attractive.
We'll start to get an indication of hiring. April, we have a pretty good idea of returning staff, and then another month or so to really get close to final numbers on, for example, where we'll be with beach staff.
Go ahead.
I would entertain a motion, excuse me, you would entertain a motion. I would make
Yeah, you
I
would.
Entertain your motion, there you go.
It's been a while. I
okay.
motion to approve the wage plans as presented.
I'll second Ms. Scott Price's motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Okay, we are going to move into vote and execute warrant for the articles and execute the warrant for the April 2024 town meeting. I'm just going to make a quick statement here because I've had a lot of questions about this. This is an opportunity for the town manager to present the warrant to the select board. We will not be entertaining public comment because on February 12th, the petitioners will present their articles, and then on February 26th, the board will vote their recommendations. So any conversation may happen at those two meetings. However, we're not here to debate the articles anyway. The board just votes to put them on the warrant and then to make any sort of recommendation. Go ahead, Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Madam Chair mentioned, there's a copy in the packets this evening of the April 2024 annual town meeting calendar. In addition, you'll find the town meeting index, a draft of the town meeting index, as well as a draft of the town meeting warrants. Going to give kind of a background summary explanation, overview, I should say, and then answer any questions you may have with the assistance of the Assistant Town Manager. The town meeting warrant is scheduled to be published in the newspaper on February 2nd, next week. The board will vote recommendations, as Madam Chair indicated, on the articles at its meeting on February 26th. By the numbers, the proposed April 2024 annual town meeting warrant includes 37 articles. In total, 25 of which are financial, including 1 petition article and 5 community preservation articles. 3 of the articles are non-financial petition articles, 3 are zoning articles, and the remainder address miscellaneous topics. Madam Chair and Select Board, we've included an article to amend the position classification plan. You'll see that as Article 4 in the index. The specific changes to the classification plan will be identified in the recommendation, which we'll be bringing forward in a future meeting. The article will include a large number of classified changes for existing positions, following a classification review for the Technical Administrative Management, or TAM, positions and some library positions. The article also will include a new full-time recycling coordinator position, and possibly, we're still discussing this, hence the yellow highlight, we're still discussing the possibility of bringing a deputy finance director position, which we will describe in detail before the board votes its recommendation for the article on February 26th. One of the articles of note that I want to bring to the board's attention seeks town meeting authorization, a home rule petition, to petition the Massachusetts legislature for approval of a real estate transfer tax to fund affordable housing. This is listed in the index as Article 33. Governor Healy has proposed legislation which would authorize towns to adopt this tax on the sale of real estate, and she's encouraging towns to adopt the special legislation as a means of demonstrating political support to the leaders of the Massachusetts Senate and House of Representatives. The Falmouth Affordable Housing Committee has recommended this article, and included in your packets this evening is a slide presentation that was given by our housing coordinator a few weeks ago at a meeting that was held over at the Senior Center. The next article, Article 25, which I wanted to bring to your attention, seeks authorization to enter leases and power purchase agreements for a term of up to 30 years for solar projects at 3 locations throughout town. The research that has been done by our relatively new still sustainability coordinator, Stephanie Madsen, shows that these power purchase agreement lease approaches best fit the town's needs. And this approach puts the onus of maintenance on the third party, importantly, and guarantees a very positive financial benefit to the town. Article 27 is the next article that I wanted to emphasize and bring to your attention. It's a similar kind of related article, I suppose, in terms of lease agreements, and it proposes to authorize entering into lease agreements for a period of up to 30 years for the Falmouth County Country Club. I think there's a typo, the Falmouth Country Club Golf Course. The current lease expires at the end of this calendar year. We're going to be conferring with the Golf Advisory Committee on the length of the next lease and other lease provisions before bringing forward a request for proposal for the Select Board approval. We've been in consultation with Town Council on this article as well. In the interim, we will be seeking town meeting authorization to give the board the ability to enter into a lease of no more than 30 years. The board's going to be hearing petition article petitions, as Madam Chair mentioned, at the February 12th meeting. And as you know by the calendar, the last day for Select Board to vote the articles of recommendation is February 26th. And that's currently our plan, is to bring those recommendations before the board on the 26th of February. And Madam Chair and Select Board, it's my recommendation Select Board vote the articles and execute the warrants, which is included in your packet for the April 2024 annual town meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from the board?
I have none, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Just a couple of questions not related to the substance of the warrant, but just will we have opportunity to discuss a couple of these items at our regular meetings before we get to town meeting? Like the proposed residential property transfer fee for one, and perhaps the solar array idea with the leasing versus buying, because when we talked about that last year, I was interested to know the economics of whether or not purchasing rather than the leasing. It's my own research, it seems that purchasing you get a lot more value, but I'd be interested to learn more.
We can certainly just.
Yeah, I think we would be discussing it, if it's an article, we would be discussing it on the 12th and/or the 26th.
Input from the
Because we would have to
public as
come
well.
up with a recommendation as well.
Right.
But if I'm hearing you correctly, do you want more information about lease versus?
On the solar, I would like to
Okay.
know why
So
that's.
that's information we'll need to get for you to have that discussion.
Right.
So I think I understand the question better.
Sure, yeah, and we've looked at that and happy to delve into it further at upcoming meetings.
Thank
That
you.
would be great.
I do have.
Oh, go ahead.
I do have one edit that we would like to make when you vote the town meeting warrant. There's a very minor clarification that we want to make for Article 13, which, and I'll read the article. It simply reads, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money within the budget to make necessary adjustments thereto. And we just want to clarify by inserting the words within the fiscal year 2024 budget.
So that's just an amendment to what's written.
Right. So when you vote the warrant tonight, if you could please vote it as amended with those words inserted, fiscal year 2024.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would move that we approve and move the warrant as presented.
And amended?
And amended with Article 13 language, fiscal year 2024. Motion to vote the articles and execute the warrant.
And execute the warrant for the
April
April.
2024 annual town meeting as presented.
I'll second Mr. Brown's motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board?
Madam Chair, only with respect to Article 23, I am a current member of the EDIC, so with respect to that particular article, we'll abstain from voting.
Okay, so we have one abstention on Article 23. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention on Article 23. The rest is unanimous, and thank you very much for your work on that. Okay, we're going to move into the consent agenda. I will read items on the consent agenda. If anyone on the board would like to hold anything listed on the consent agenda, please notify me, and we will hold it. Okay, licenses. Approve administrative address correction, Silver Lounge, Inc., 412 North Falmouth Highway. Approve application for a one-day entertainment license, The Portuguese, 424 East Falmouth Highway, Unit B 101, East Falmouth, Saturday, February 2nd, 2024.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
is that a complete title, The Portuguese
The
what?
Portuguese. I wasn't sure either. I don't know what
Is
that.
that the feast?
That's what they call it. No, it's the Portuguese. That's the name of the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
All right.
Very
Thank-
popular with Brazilian food.
Thank you for
Okay.
that clarification. Okay, under administrative orders, approve request to use $5,401.66 of the road race donation originally intended for the new playground behind the Recreation Center to pay for needed parts to complete the installation of the playground at Sandwich Road. Approve Falmouth Fire and Rescue Department application for the FY 2023 Emergency Management Planning Grant. Approve the 2024 Seasonal Population Increase Estimation Form for submittal to the ABCC, the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
I would just comment, if I could, that was surprising. It's 83,000 plus our regular 33,000. I wonder it's so crowded in the summertime.
You're not holding it, you just made a
No,
comment,
ma'am, I
correct?
just
Okay,
want the
thank you.
observation.
Approve request from Ament Clower LLP on behalf of David A., Edward M., and Jean M. Pagani, managers of 352 Scranton LLC, and owners of both 227 Clinton Ave and 352 Scranton Ave, to apply to the Conservation Commission and to the Board of Health relative to work within the layout of Clinton Ave. Approve letter of support for the Town of Mashpee's Ashumet Pond Aluminum Sulfate Project. Okay, I will entertain a
Madam
motion.
Chair, I'll move this consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to move the consent agenda. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, town manager's supplemental report. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two items that I want to go through relatively quickly. On January 26th, just last week, Friday, the town was advised that its 2024 Phase 2 Seaport Economic Council grant was awarded for construction phase in the amount of $344,000. In 2022, the Seaport Council has awarded $45,720 for Phase 1 engineering permitted. We're really excited that they fully funded that phase, the construction phase, in that amount. Seaport Economic Council helps coastal communities develop and improve local assets to facilitate their economic growth. The council serves all 78 of Massachusetts' diverse coastal communities and helps each to use their unique economic assets to grow the economy and unlock job creation. Council also awards grants to create jobs and build resilience to climate change. As background, Madam Chair and Board, in 2021, the town attempted to repair the bulkhead by installing sheathing behind the existing wood bulkhead. Due to large obstructions, which I was told were old bridge revetments, we could not get all of the sheathing installed. The result was continued problems with sinkholes developing after large rain events. This Phase 2 grant is going to fund 75% of the cost of a new bulkhead. Test piles were already driven the entire length of the bulkhead seaward of the existing bulkhead to ensure no obstructions would be encountered this time around. The new bulkhead will be installed approximately 1 foot seaward of the existing bulkhead, and composite sheathing will be used to ensure long life, which we're projecting to be 15 to 20 years. The second announcement is a notice of public review and comment that I wanted to highlight and provide information to the public. The federal fiscal year 2024-2028 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment 1. Last week, January 22nd, this was released during a meeting held on this 22nd. The Cape Cod Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, released its federal fiscal year 24 to 28 Transportation Improvement Plan, or TIP, for a 21-day public review and comment period. I want to encourage members of the public and the board to review a copy of the document. You can go to capecodcommission.org/MPO for more information. A virtual public meeting of the Cape Cod MPO is scheduled for Monday, February 26th at 1 p.m. to hear public comments related to the document and vote for potential endorsement of the plan. More information on the meeting can be found at www.capecodcommission.org/MPO or by calling 508-362-3828. Madam Chair and Select Board, the TIP, or Transportation Improvement Plan, serves as a prioritized listing of roadway, bridge, and transit projects proposed for implementation during the next 5 federal fiscal years. The FY 24 to 28 TIP Amendment 1 would revise the listing of Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority projects to reflect changes to planned projects for federal fiscal year 2024, add a steamship authority Woods Hole Terminal solar power project, and add a community transit planning grant that was awarded to Outer Cape Community Solutions. And again, comments will be accepted through February 12th via mail, hand delivery, or fax or email. Mail or hand-delivered copies could be sent to the Cape Cod Commission Transportation Program in care of the Transportation Program Manager, Ms. Colleen Medeiros, 3225 Main Street, Route 6A, P.O. Box 226, Barnstable, Mass. 02630. Faxes could be sent to 508-362-3136 to the attention again of Ms. Colleen Madero, the Transportation Program Manager. And importantly, email comments can be sent to colleen.maderos@capecodcommission.org. And we're asking for folks that are submitting comments via email to that address to use TIP, T-I-P, in the subject line. And lastly, for more information, residents can visit capecodcommission.org/tip or contact Ms. Medeiros, the program manager, again at Colleen Medeiros at capecodcommission.org. And Madam Chair, that's all the updates and announcements that I have.
Thank you. Okay, any board reports? Mr. Muscali?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I had the opportunity to attend the Martin Luther King breakfast at the Seacrest this past year, along with Mr. Renshaw, Mr. Johnson-Staub, and his wife. As always, it was a overflow crowd, and we were given a very inspiring speech by Manuel Fernandez, who is the Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Officer for the Cambridge Schools, entitled Fostering Equity and Inclusion in the Community. I also had an opportunity to attend the Massachusetts Municipal Association annual meeting, in addition with Mr. Johnson-Staub and Mr. Brown. On Friday, we heard Governor Healy's keynote speech in which she discussed her local empowerment proposal with respect to giving towns certain options to increase taxes. Very good speech. And one of the breakout sessions in the afternoon was entitled Housing Converts, where they spoke about 3 specific projects that were conversions of existing buildings, a school annex, an abandoned mill in Williamstown that became very successful, housing projects that helped the town. And the common theme throughout all of those proposals was the need for the town and developers. And of the 3, 2 were nonprofit developers. The importance of having coordination between the town and the developers to result in a good project. We also heard from Lieutenant Governor Driscoll on Saturday. I'll let Mr. Brown discuss that meeting we had with her on Saturday.
Thank you, Mr. Muscali. Mr.
Again,
Brown?
this year, the Lieutenant Governor was good enough to take her lunch break with us at the Cape and Islands delegation, and we had got our own room, and it was a nice little chance to catch up with her. And Andrew Gottlieb spoke really clearly about the fact that the Water Protection Fund is going to be facing a shortfall, and the fact that we really need funding. He actually gave her a printed copy of the fund report of this last year, and I got to sneak in a comment about looking for a little more leadership from the governor on this wind turbine planning, and I think that hopefully she'll relay that. I suggested that maybe the governor's office should get more involved working with these wind turbine companies and helping them with their planning, because they're kind of doing it willy-nilly right now. And I even went so far as to suggest that perhaps a portion of the military base, one of the corners could be carved out for a giant transformer station that could serve all of these projects and not be sticking them in residential neighborhoods like what is facing here in Falmouth. So I hope that idea gets some traction. And as mentioned earlier, I also attended with Mr. Muscali, not really with you, but we were both there.
We were both there.
And that Close to the Wind, and it really raised some interesting questions that I don't think have been discussed before that I'm aware of, and one of which is that it's apparently potential to interrupt Coast Guard search and rescue radar. So if there are fishing boats that are out in bad weather and need assistance. Coast Guard might not be able to respond. I'd like to invite, hopefully, we can invite somebody from the Coast Guard who's knowledgeable, can speak to that and allay those concerns. And the environmental impact is really scary, showing the equipment that's used and what's gonna happen to the seafloor. The fact that the cables, the center core of the cable heats up to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. And what the one fisherman from Maine said, what's gonna be a shame is they're gonna do this trenching, they're gonna lay these cables, they're gonna put their cement blocks around them, and the new structure, the creatures are all gonna go crawling in there because they like to find new places to hide. Then they're gonna turn the juice on and kill them all. Another big thing to consider is the transformer stations are out on these platforms, and they're taking in millions of gallons of water to cool themselves each day. And the water, the seawater, gets heated to 98 degrees or so while it's cooling the equipment, and then dumped back in the ocean. So all the phytoplankton, all the little minerals and all the things in there are gonna be killed. There's so many impacts. And then what was really troubling was the fact that it may not really have any impact on reducing greenhouse conditions. So I think we got a lot to learn about it before we go too far. It's already going too far.
I would agree with you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Scott Price?
I don't have anything today.
No baby updates?
Oh, she's amazing.
That's your report.
Baby report, huh?
That's my report, yeah.
Mr. Zelinski?
Madam Chair, I commenced my duties as the representative of Sub-Region A for the MPO this past week, and worked with Mr. Renshaw about creating a rapport with that Cape Cod Commission office, so everybody was on the same page. And as a result, you heard his report that was pretty defined and instructive. What I will say is, our last meeting was an hour and a half, but it was an hour and a half well spent. It's a lot easier to attend that meeting or view it afterwards to fully understand what's out there and what's being done, because there is so much material in there. And then the dates are so far out. I mean, they're planning out to 2028 already on some things. So naturally, you look to see where your town first benefits, but as I represent 4 towns now, I think it's a good idea that Mr. Renshaw and that office are fully aware of what's going on and have a rapport with them so they can check on those as well. So it was, it's a lot to learn, but I'm in for it, so. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, I will entertain, if there's nothing else from the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.